Assalamu alaikum, welcome to Dialogue. I'm Taimour Shamil. Prime Minister Imran Khan this week he went to ISI headquarters where he had a meeting with the DG ISI and other top military officials. Prime Minister and the ISI officials talked about the national security, and the meeting went on for 8 hours almost. And this meeting was a very important meeting since Prime Minister was there to discuss Pakistan's national security. Prime Minister said that ISI, Pakistan's premium intelligence agency, has been working for Pakistan, for the national security of Pakistan, and he also went to the place of the martyrs of ISI, and he paid tribute to the martyrs of ISI. And he said that our intelligence agencies have been working for Pakistan, for the betterment of Pakistan, and they have thwarted and they have fought the challenges within Pakistan and the external challenges as well. We'll talk about this today in our program. Also, we'll talk about China-Pakistan economic corridor. Pakistan and China have embarked on a mega economic activity, which is China-Pakistan economic corridor. Both countries would be working on this mega economic activity. This would also give China access to the rest of the world, and certainly this would also benefit Pakistan. What would be the terms and conditions that the new government would set for China-Pakistan economic corridor? Because there are some reports in the media that the new government of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, new Prime Minister Imran Khan, would be working on new terms. Certainly this is government's right to revise the terms and conditions and also work primarily for the betterment of Pakistan. Both the government of Pakistan and the Chinese government have made it very clear that China and Pakistan both will be working for the betterment of the people of Pakistan and for the people of China. We're going to discuss about all this with our special guest today. Our first guest is Lieutenant General retired Raza Muhammad Khan, renowned senior defense analyst and former president of National Defense University, Islamabad. So, welcome to the show. Our second guest is Mr. Yasir Masood. He is an expert on Pakistan's foreign policy and also on Pakistan-China relations and China-Pakistan economic corridor. Welcome to the program, Mr. Yasir. General Raza, starting with the first topic, Prime Minister Imran Khan, he went to the ISI headquarters and he had a long meeting with the ISI officials over there. ISI is Pakistan's #1 intelligence agency, rather of the region, of the world. People have been talking about civil-military relations, how the new government would go along with the challenges that are there, internal and external. The message that we got after Prime Minister's visit to ISI headquarters was that ISI, the Pakistan Army, the government would be working together to fight the challenges that are there, internal and external. How do you see Prime Minister's visit to ISI headquarters?
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I think I'll take you a little back on this subject to the evening of 6 September when the Prime Minister was there at the General Headquarters on the occasions of the defense of Pakistan and the Martyrs' Day. And I think there he very categorically stated that the people and the government of Pakistan and the armed forces of Pakistan are working for the same purpose. They are on the same page. They have similar objectives. And I think it was made very clear by him that while in the past there may have been some issues of civil military relationship, it does not exist at all. So that was a very encouraging statement from him at that time. And then before that he had visited the General Headquarters and again spent about 8 hours or so on the issues of national security, defense preparedness, from the army side. Now, you talked about his visit to the ISI headquarters. Again, he has, for the second time, acknowledged the sacrifices of the ISI, because you're aware that most of the operations that have been carried out are intelligence-based operations. And without sufficient enough and actionable intelligence, it is really impossible to defeat the terrorists or even the extremists. So he went there, and I think he acknowledged their good work. He also pledged not only the support of the people of Pakistan, but also the government of Pakistan to the ISI, and before that to the general headquarters. I'm sure he will continue to visit these premier institutions, which will now subsequently include probably the special the strategic plans divisions, the air headquarters and the naval headquarters, and it goes to prove how seriously this new government is taking the issue of national security. I think it bears very well for Pakistan and its future.
Mr. Yasir Masood, the way Pakistan Army in general and ISI in specifically have been fighting the extremists and the terrorists within Pakistan is, I would say, unprecedented. In the last 15 years, I would say, in 17 years. Since the Afghan war is going on, United States and Afghanistan, there was a time when TTP was repeatedly targeting innocent people in Pakistan. That was up till 2013. After that, we have seen, interestingly, a decrease in the terrorist attacks. How do you see now the situation overall and ISI's role? When Prime Minister went over there, ISI headquarters, and he interacted with the ISI officials, ISI's role and Pakistan Army and government on the same page?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yes, Taimour, if we, I would turn the clock back to 9/11, as well as you just mentioned that it's been 15 years on. And you see, since then, we are up against different kinds of warfare. If we say that we have unprecedented successes against the war of extremism and war on terror. At the same time, I think so, if we see that taking from the time of Operation Zarb-e-Azab and then Operation Raddul Fasad and then many other operations being carried out during this time. At the same time, all eyes were set on Pakistan, because this was, as I just mentioned, that we were confronted with multitude of maladies, with multitudes of issues which we were up against. But at the same time, this success on part of the military, on part of ISI, and on the part of the whole nation is exemplary. This has set an example to the rest of the world that see how Pakistan wriggled out from this, from these conundrum, from these issues. I would give you an example of Sri Lanka. It took about 28 years for them to came out of extremism and terrorism. At the same time, I would say that, you know, as I just mentioned, that it was so complex that at one point of time, it was the whole nation was so disappointed and was under pressure regarding these extremism and terrorism. There was a time when every other day there was like bomb blasts and all that. But now we see that we came out of it. It's beyond us. 90%, you know, that hard phase has gone, and we are in the much more driving seat as far as the threats are concerned. At the same time, it shows a great determination on part of this government that they are on the same page with the military, and it also reflects that if there are other issues, because you see there is still chaos and unrest in Afghanistan, so we have a threat from there. So if in the region, if we want to have a better position and if we want to grow even economically, so the first prerequisite is that we have to have a better security environment. And for that purpose, I guess that things are on the right track.
And strategically, obviously.
Obviously,
because this
yes.
whole, even China-Pakistan economic corridor is a thing that is strategically very important for Pakistan, certainly. So rather talking about China-Pakistan economic corridor now, both countries are working on this mega economic activity. Certainly, this would also help China to get access to the rest of the world, and also this would benefit Pakistan. What Minister of Information said, Mr. Fawad Chaudhry, he said that we'll work on this project, and also that we want this project to benefit people at the grassroots level. So the impression that we get at the moment is that we might be shifting from infrastructure to what would benefit the people at the grassroots level. Because the previous government we saw was particularly focusing on the infrastructure, this government would also be focusing on jobs, creating jobs, and also for the new entrepreneurs. How do you see China-Pakistan economic corridor now?
Let me first say, that in the last 2 or 3 weeks, there have been some very controversial statements emanating, from some ministers and advisors. And I think the government will do well to control, the personal opinions of their advisors and ministers. And I think it is good that officially some personal opinions were immediately corrected. I'm referring, to some opinions aired by Senator Shibli, then some opinion by, Mr. Razak Dawood, and also the Information Minister himself, which were probably, twisted and some spin was applied to it by those who oppose the CPAC. So I think that needs to be put to rest. Yes, there should be a lot of debate and discussion, which should be encouraged. But 4 years have passed, and the CPAC is well on its way, to the completion of some of the important projects. And I think most of the officials of the present government, particularly those who belong to KP, they have been part of the joint meetings and the joint committees. They've been visiting China with them, and I think they've been interacting with Mr. Hassan Iqbal as well. So I think they were pretty aware of what is happening. When you come to reappraisal of a certain project with another country, then you have to look at it, if you have any other alternatives. If anyone in Pakistan, I would actually question them. If they have any alternative which is equal to or even close to the CPAC, right, I think they need to come out with it and discuss it. Right. Also, I would actually say that tomorrow, if this government or any government puts this issue to a referendum, I think 99% of the people will say that they will support the CPAC. So I think we should not have any second opinions about it. And it has been said when the Chinese foreign minister was here, a week back, he was actually he briefed the media, and there were 10 concerns. A few of them emanated from Pakistan, but most of them were created, to manipulate the perception about CPAC in Pakistan. They were from abroad, mainly the United States and India, and he, I think, very effectively and officially responded to all of them. And he made it very clear that the story about Pakistan getting, indebted, and then, Pakistan being forced, to surrender its sovereignty and territory to the Chinese is totally false. I think he gave facts and figures about that. And I think he said that it is going to benefit both the people of Pakistan as well as the people of China. Right. We found that, not only him, but even the Chinese ambassador, they were very flexible about, the terms of reference of the CPAC. Recall again, when the Chinese ambassador 2 or 3 days back, he went to call on the Chief of Army Staff. I think both were very categoric, and they said that CPAC is going to be the lifeline of Pakistan, and that they will leave no stone unturned, to protect and defend it.
This thing you aptly said that the headlines of many newspapers, Mr. Yasir, have been very misleading, I would say. And what ministers said we saw that they were misquoted on many places. Talking about government's priorities, this time, the new government's priorities regarding China-Pakistan economic corridor, how do you see them? Because, as I said earlier, previous government was focusing more on infrastructure, on roads and bridges and all that. This government would be focusing on benefiting people at the grassroots level. This is what the government is saying at the moment. It would also certainly be important because government wants to create more jobs for the people at the grassroots level. So revising, let's say, terms with China, is there anything wrong in it? How do you see that?
Actually, there are two answers to your question. First one is that why we see that for quite some time now, that we see the headlines of different newspapers, especially emanating from the West or especially from India as well. So first thing, and these are some of the narratives which we defeat and which we defend on daily basis, because these are those negative perceptions, these are those negative narratives which are owned by us, and they are emanating from the external forces. The first thing we need to keep that in mind, that we have actually initiated some kind of trainings as well to few journalists, the low tier journalists, to inform them and to educate them about the narrative building, that what is narrative and how these narratives are being manipulated, twisted, and then being used against a particular nation. At the moment, this whole concept of Belt and Road Initiative and CPAC is actually confronting the hybrid warfare, and hybrid warfare has different kinds of technicalities. It's not like a regular warfare. In this kind of warfare, there is a lot of propaganda which is being spread on the internet. So the aim is to create mistrust, the aim is to create misconception, the aim is to create doubts, right. The aim is to create fear about your own something which is positive for a nation.
Right. And how do we counter that? How do
yes,
we counter that?
I'll
that
come to that. We need to counter that. There are two important aspects to this as well. One is that, and we have been doing that. I mean, government of Pakistan, whether it was previous government or this government, is trying to to give proper responses which are based on facts and figures. What happens is that some of the people, they are actually drawing sketches based on they're not based on facts and figures, and they are based on myths. Like, for example, debt trap diplomacy. This is a term coined by India. Colonialization of this country, that they will make it East India Company, that China is actually aiming to make Pakistan an East India Company. Right. So these are some of the facts.
China will become an East India Company primarily.
Yes.
Right.
So what we need to do is that, and both China and Pakistan, it's not the responsibility of Pakistan alone. Right. And how they are playing, they are manipulating on certain facts. One is...
And also keeping in mind that CPAC is the flagship project of BRI.
CPAC is the flagship, so it is called the linchpin of Belt and Road Initiative. So there are two objectives on which mostly, the West and the other countries, they are banking on, and they are trying to sabotage the whole concept of Belt and Road Initiative as well as CPAC. One is the insecurity situation in South Asian region, and time and again you will find out that every now and then there are some kinds of explanation in which it is being depicted that the region is not secure. This is one of the way to create more doubts and fear. The second one is that some of the projects or the whole concept of Belt and Road Initiative is not very transparent yet. By transparent, what I mean is that China needs to come up and come up with more explanation. They should open up in front of the masses. China, as well as this will be reflected in CPAC as well. So if the government wants to make it more transparent, there is no harm in doing that.
And I think you rightly mentioned this thing, and journalists are talking about the transparency of the project. It is very important what Mr. Yasir Masood said. But not just China, I think also government needs to open up more about China-Pakistan economic corridor, make a layman understand, a common man understand what China-Pakistan economic corridor is, and what are the terms and conditions we are working on with the Chinese, our friends in China. So that is very important. How do you think that we can do this?
Look, I agree with you on this, but not entirely. You see, when there is a project which does not involve only Pakistan, but as it was said, CPAC is only a component of the BRI, okay, and it involves 68 countries. Yes. Therefore, to make all the details of the CPAC or the BRI and its funding, available to the public, I don't know whether it will be the right thing to do or not. I think no government anywhere in the world does that. For the sake of national security, and also that these kinds of details could create difficulties in the future, financial difficulties, tendering difficulties, and a number of other things. So to the extent possible, Yes, I think they should be as transparent as possible. But then, we'll have to see whether both sides agree on that. And on that, I think there is no harm in taking the opinion of the security agencies of the two sides and informing, all shades of public opinion across the political divide, leaders of the political parties, so that, it is owned entirely by them and nobody opposes it. Also, I would very quickly add to it is that I think CPAC itself is for the entire region, for the South Asian region, and I think if the United States or India are opposed to that, they are not only opposing China or Pakistan, they are also opposing all the 68 countries, which are eventually going to benefit from it. And I will strongly urge and recommend that all these 68 countries led by China should sit together and formulate a joint response, to protect, promote and pursue the CPAC and the BRI.
Mr. Yasir, India is also part of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, member of SCO. So is Pakistan, member of SCO. What General Raza said, this is an opportunity not just for Pakistan, but also for the region. And most probably, Afghanistan will also be working on this China-Pakistan BRI, for that matter. Do you think that China-Pakistan Economic Corridor or BRI in general can bring both countries, India and Pakistan, together? And recently also, since government said this, that Pakistan would like to improve relations with its neighbors because we want prosperity and development in the region. How would Pakistan and India and China would work on it?
See, this whole concept of Belt and Road Initiative is not new. It is coming from the time of, especially, there are some ethos which we need to understand when we talk about China. For example, like peaceful coexistence, win-win cooperation, community of shared destiny, Shanghai spirit, and now Belt and Road Initiative. And this community of shared destiny is coming from the Confucius time. It is a concept which is about more than 2,000 years old. And then this was rejuvenated in the previous government by the previous president of China, Mr. Hu Jintao, who tried to use this concept, exercise this concept to have a better understanding, to have a better relations with Taiwan. So the things are very crystal clear when we talk about Belt and Road Initiative, that it is for the prosperity of whole humanity. It is for the prosperity of neighbors, near neighbors, region, and for the whole world. And as rightly mentioned by my colleague, that about 68 countries are under the fold of Belt and Road Initiative. We must understand that this is a new contest. This is an extension of Cold War now. Is exactly the same way when there was a contest of two ideologies in the Cold War. Now it is a new contest of soft power and hard power, because you see US has been exercising its hard power tools for quite some time now. Now this is a bigger challenge which is standing tall in front of the hard power tools, and by this China is using its softer powers by giving economic accentuation to developing states so that they have better understanding. Even if you go back in the whole Silk Route, in the Silk Route time, China never colonized any state. So they are going on the same principles, on the same ethos. So we need to understand that why there is so much opposition. At the moment, US has to pay about $3.52 trillion to China. So the concept of opposition, the reasoning of opposition is very clear. And the other thing is that at the moment there is a trade imbalance between US and China. So, but what we need to do is that at this point of time, for example, there are other alternatives available as well to strengthen our economy in CPAC and then other than CPAC. For example, there are options to have currency swap between both countries. Right. The first one was laid out and the amount was $10 billion. Now it has reached to $20 billion. Russia and China, they're also thinking to have a currency swap. So these are some of the mechanisms on which Pakistan, if they carry on work, I'm sure that Pakistan would definitely come out of this phase.
Looking at China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, General Raza, in a larger context, there is an economic rift between there is this perception that there is economic rift between America and China. What are the options for countries like Pakistan? Because there's a perception that Pakistan has a tilt towards China now. Secretary Pompeo was here, United States Secretary Pompeo. He met the officials, he met the Prime Minister as well. What are the options for Pakistan? Would Pakistan tilt towards China? Would Pakistan keep a balance between China and United States? Because both countries are economic giants at the moment.
Pakistan should not, keep a balance between anyone. It should just look at its own national interests. It should tilt, not only tilt, but actually embrace any country, who is prepared to serve its national interest and national security interest. And at the time, I think China has demonstrated it, that it deserves that embrace from not only Pakistan, but many countries of this region, including the 68 other countries. You look at what the United States is doing. Only I think 7 or 10 days back, Mr. Pompeo and their the chairman was there in India. And the Foreign Office has already rejected that joint statement. In my view, the Foreign Office should have actually called the US ambassador and launched a protest, against that kind of statement which was issued in India, where Pakistan was blamed for everything, that has happened in India for the last maybe 10 years or so. So it is not, that Pakistan is bending away from the United States, but because the United States is totally abandoning Pakistan and it is embracing India. So it's kind of a quid pro quo, and I think it's a very natural thing that has happened. And I'll quickly like to add, it is related to your previous question. What are some of the changes and the modification? I think it was there in today's paper. Some, I think, crucial changes, which they're related to the priorities, and they have been agreed. Like some of the projects, now they have been, their execution has been changed, from the ECP to the BOT. And I think that actually augurs well for both sides, because the Chinese will be able to do it and then hand it over and also operate it. There was some, discussion about, putting on hold some of the coal-powered plants for energy. I think probably they will now be done later on again, which is okay. And probably there are other things also under discussion. There was a very clear mention of 70,000 or so jobs, coming, being created in the early harvest sort of project, and eventually over a period of 10 to 15 years, there would be 1 million jobs created in Pakistan. So this is what is going to accrue out of that, and these are the areas I think which needs to be highlighted by the media, particularly the state media.
And this is very important, Mr. Yasir, that government's priority is, what we can see is that government wants to create more jobs at the grassroots level. Prime Minister Imran Khan talked about more jobs, giving more jobs to the young people. We have the largest number of young people in the world in Pakistan. Giving them more opportunities, more entrepreneurs, more jobs would be very, I think, crucially important for the new government. That is why the government said that government wants the small businessmen to benefit from China-Pakistan economic corridor. So chalking out, let's say, a strategy with China that would benefit the people of Pakistan would certainly, I think, it would be a win-win situation for everybody, for China, Pakistan, for the government, and also for the people.
First of all, I think as far as the Chinese concept is concerned, Chinese are very open to it. Whenever there is negotiation or whenever there is any, change in the master plan, because they themselves do it, both for the parties, as long as it is beneficial, because they believe in win-win cooperation. And Chinese have, with open arms, they have accepted it, and they're ready to do it. In fact, when I spoke to lots of Chinese officials, even in the past, they were, they were looking forward from the Pakistani side that come up and let's negotiate whatever comes in the benefit of Pakistan. They're more than happy to do that. And another thing is that Chinese...
and this is, by the way, sorry to cut you, that this is the official statement of the Chinese government.
Yes.
That they would do whatever benefit the people of Pakistan.
Another ambition of Chinese, spending and giving so much incentive to Pakistan is that that at the end of the day, they want to make Pakistan a sustainable, a long-standing economy, an independent economy, so that it should not be only solely reliable to China alone. And that is why when we say that CPAC is an inclusive project, or in the larger canvas, the whole Belt and Road Initiative is inclusive. When we say it is inclusive, it means that it will have its positive implications in every sector. But at the same time, it's equally exclusive. That's why there is an option of including third parties in China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. So by all means, there is no harm in doing that. And if there are more priorities regarding health, regarding education, regarding people-to-people contacts, in fact, there are foreign investors, they are keen to invest in Pakistan. Recently, a Dutch company has invested in the dairy products. Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is looking forward to invest in Pakistan. Russia is cozying up towards Pakistan. Whole Central Asia is keen and looking forward to invest in Pakistan. So it is very important that we should not only solely rely on China-Pakistan Economic Corridor projects alone, rather there has to have a multiplying effect by attracting lots of foreign investors in Pakistan.
And you rightly said that Pakistan has been exploring other markets and improving its relations with other countries as well.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Can I just
Sure,
add?
please.
All right. You see, there's again, because energy is so important for Pakistan, and I think in the last 4 or 5 years, a lot of energy projects have come, but enough attention for one reason or the other was not paid, to the distribution and the transmission part of this energy. And I think it is good that the present government is very seriously, considering that. I think it would add a lot of value to many of the energy thing, and they were essential. And finally, I think the government will do very well to prevent the CPAC from getting politicized in any manner whatsoever. Thank you.
Rightly. Thank you so much, General Raza. Thank you for joining us. Pleasure having you on the show. Mr. Yasir, Masood, thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us. I would just sum up what our experts said today. Primarily, we need to bring a better understanding of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor at the grassroots level inside Pakistan. And at the same time, we should also be very cautious about how CPAC is discussed internationally. There were some news headlines as well, which were pretty misleading, I would say, in the international newspapers. After today's program, we can see that clearly Pakistan and China are on the same page. They are working on this mega economic activity. This would certainly benefit people in China and also people in Pakistan. And this is an opportunity not just for Pakistan, but for the region. We hope that people inside Pakistan and outside Pakistan would understand this completely. Thank you for watching today's program. See you next time. Khuda.